welcome to Torsey Waldridge Kitchen Gardener. I'm going to give you my 9 top seeds to grow in the month of February, along with 3 top tips for this month, and I will give you a very brief tour of the glass house and show you the progress from the seed sowing that I did in the month of January. My 9 favourite seeds to grow in the month of February are cabbages, cauliflowers, broad beans, onions, shallots and leeks, celery and celeriac, along with a nice lettuce crop. If you haven't already got your lettuce in, start sowing some of that now. So you can grow that in a heated glass house, in a polytunnel with heat mats, or on a nice bright windowsill will be absolutely perfectly fine. If you don't have any heat source, I would definitely say grow your celery and celeriac maybe next month. It won't do it any harm just growing it that month later, because obviously you will stunt the growth if it's not a warm enough environment for it to grow in. And if you guys are struggling at all with any kind of varieties, I will put down all of the varieties that I personally use for the crops that I'm growing for this month, so you can find that down on the page down below. My 3 top tips for the month of February are: planning is a really good one to start with. It's always good to have a plan of some sorts. If you don't mind winging it and working your food in with your menus, then that's absolutely fine. If you're working for events and you need a certain quantities of food and you need them for certain dates, you need to sit down and plan how long that vegetable takes to grow. So work from your event backwards. So if it takes a crop 65 days to mature to harvest, work from your date backwards, then you know when to sow it, when it is to be planted in the ground, and roughly when you're going to be harvesting it, and obviously quantities that you need for any events that you've got. It is all in the planning, guys. So the better the plan that you have, the more you'll find everything flows with what you're trying to achieve. And also with your planning, put your crop rotation into your planning. We've still got quite a few days of cold left, so on those really cold days when you don't necessarily want to be in the garden, then sit inside with a nice warm cup of tea, work out your plan, work out your crop rotation. If you're fortunate enough to have your 4 or 3 bed crop rotation, make sure you're moving your plants on. And the same as if you don't have, you know, separated beds, just make sure you're not growing your vegetable crops exactly in the same place that you did last year. So move those along and have some sort of formula going that works for you. The second top tip is successional sowing. So if I use lettuce as an example, so you can't just sow a load of lettuce and then let that won't see you through the whole of the growing season. You need to sort of sow a line of lettuce. That will see you through a month or so. You can have it as a cut and come again lettuce, or you can have it so it hearts up, and that will see you through a couple of months. But what you want to do is, after a month of sowing that crop, you want to stick another crop in the ground and just keep it going. I understand space can be a problem. I end up with space issues where the garden is so rammed and I need to get certain crops in the ground and there's no ground left. But this is where your planning comes in. You know, if you work out you need X amount of bed space for X amount of rows, and that will see you through the whole of the growing season. So it is just working out what you want to do, what food you want out of your vegetable patch, your allotment plot, and just sitting down and figuring it out. And I always find plans are it's just a bit of fun really, and it's just interesting to see how it helps you evolve over the years with your plans. And the third top tip would be, it's still pretty cold and miserable outside, maybe give growing microgreens a go. So microgreens are absolutely fantastic. They're crops that don't reach full maturity. There's an amazing array of them out there. They're beautiful as garnishes, or even as lovely, really tender baby leaf salads. So I'm going to be putting a YouTube video up of microgreens, so if you are interested in growing microgreens, then look out for my microgreen YouTube video, and I'll give you all the information in there that you need to grow your microgreens. So believe it or not, there are 2 crops that we can start thinking about sowing in the month of February. I'm more than likely going to be sowing my 2 crops at the end of February, maybe into March, all depending on what the weather's doing and what the soil's doing. So those two crops are early carrots and parsnips. Now my ground is in a terrible condition. I haven't been able to get onto it, haven't been able to prep anything, and my carrots and parsnips do need a bit of ground prep. But if you're in parts of the country where you're finding that the soil, you know, you're not on heavy soil and you haven't had the quantities of rainfall that we've had down south here, then you can look at, but you've got to get specific first early carrots to be growing this time of the year. If you get a second early or a main crop, they're more than likely not going to germinate because the temperature is just too cold. The soil's just going to be too cold. It might be worth, if you are on wet soggy soil, wait until it dries out a bit. You might find the seeds just rot, especially if we continue to get more rain throughout February and March. So, but they are something that you can look into and consider planting. And if I'm able to, I will try and get my ground prepped, because I need a good open structure for my parsnips and carrots to grow in. Also as well, once I've done my drills, put my seeds in, filled it back over, I will cover that with a fleece just to protect it from the harshest of the weather, so that seedling just gets a little bit of a chance to go. And also as well, mice have been a massive problem, so I know as soon as I sow those seeds and they start to germinate, they are going to be absolutely loving those fresh green tips of those seedlings. So to help germination and to stop the rodents and the birds getting to them, just cover it with fleece, pin it flat to the ground. You don't need hoops or anything, and then just cover that for the next few months, and hopefully we will get some form of seed germination. My 3 cut flowers that I am going to be growing in the month of February, and please, I'm sorry if my pronunciation on this isn't great. Some of these are new plants to me and I'm terrible with pronunciations, but I will put everything that I've mentioned, the same as with the vegetables. I'll put the list of the cut flowers that I'll be growing and the varieties. So the first one is Statice, and that is traditionally, I think people see it as a dried flower. I'll put a picture on for you guys at the end of this so you know what they look like as well. So I've got 2 varieties of those. I've got Nicotiniana Lime Green, absolutely beautiful colour, and it works really well as a cut flower, adds a bit of a lovely zing to your bouquets or your flower arrangements. And I've got Amii and Stocks. Stocks are absolutely beautiful, they smell amazing, and the Amii is very similar to parsley, so a flat-headed, open, beautiful looking flower. Like I say, some of these crops are completely new to me, so I've never grown them before, and it'd just be interesting, and I'm excited to see how they turn out, what they look like in the cut flower garden, and how they work as my cut flower. So it's all new to me, the same as it might be for you guys, so let's just give it a go. And like I say, if you want the variety names, they're all put down below, and happy growing for the month of February. So without further ado, let's go and check out the glass house, and I will show you what I've been sowing and growing in there. So these are my chilies, peppers and aubergines, and they're doing really well. So I've been off for 4 days and I've come back, and so many of them are germinated, and even some of the chilies that are quite hard to get going have germinated, and I'm really happy with that. I have noticed that my peppers aren't doing so great, so I might sow a few more batches of them just to cover me, because I've got to make sure I've got my peppers and my sweet peppers. And then we've got, in this blue tray, I've got my leeks. I sowed them a little bit earlier. I've obviously said to sow them in February, and I've sown them a few weeks earlier than that. And I've got sweet peas, early crop of mange tous. I've also got some spinach, chamomile, and a few other bits and bobs, kohlrabi. I grow quite a lot of herbs just to keep my stock up and replace any blank spaces that I've got. I know I shouldn't really have my sweet peas in a warm glass house, but I've got such a bad mouse problem, I'm really scared to move them down into the polytunnel because they're just eating everything. So I've got, if you guys have watched before, I've got my pineapple, which I was struggling to grow last year, but I potted it up and it seems to be flying now. So it's looking absolutely amazing and really healthy, and I'm still waiting for it to fruit. I can't wait to do a video to show you the fruit when it does come, because I think I've had that now for 3 years and it's not done anything but grow. And I've got my lemon tree, which I'm really happy with because the buds of the lemons have started, and I'm hoping that they will set, and the smell of the blossom on the lemon trees is absolutely amazing, so uplifting for this time of the year. And I've got a beautiful cardamom plant in the back. That's absolutely fantastic when you put the leaves or dried leaves in food. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. Here are my microgreens. So like I said to you guys, growing microgreens, I'll do, you know, hook onto that video and watch me doing my microgreens. They're a great way of getting extra bits of food for this time of the year. Down here I've got some hyssops that started to germinate, which is a herb. Digitalis, the foxglove, which hasn't shown any signs of movement yet, but I'm sure it will do. I've got plenty more herbs. There's thyme and creeping thyme in there. And then over here I've got trays of lettuce, which will then be put into the polytunnel once that's done. And my broad beans at the back. Yet again, broad beans shouldn't be in here, but because of the mice, I'm a little bit reluctant to put them down in the polytunnel. But that is the joys of gardening. So that is my little tour of my glass house and my propagation area.